Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Risk with Dr. Naveen Agarwal. Each week, we talk about a topic related to risk management of medical devices in a very casual and informal way. This is not a webinar or lecture. Rather, our goal is to talk about key topics and challenges in a very informal way and share best practices. I'm your host, Naveen Agarwal, and I'm the principal and founder at Achieve, where my personal mission is to help you achieve success in risk management. My guest in this episode is David Sturgis. He has many years of IT and operations management experience, but today we are having a conversation about life as a patient, specifically a diabetic patient. This is a very personal story that David shared with our audience as part of our weekly LinkedIn Live audio series. You're about to hear a recording of our conversation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Well, hello everyone, and welcome to our weekly Let's Talk Risk live conversation. I'm so excited to meet with you again. And guys, I'm so excited today because we're going to have a slightly different conversation. Generally, we talk about risk-related topics, but today we're going to talk about a patient's perspective. And I can't just wait to hear David's story today, who is going to be my guest. I can't wait to hear his story, his experience, and his perspective. So with that, I'm going to actually invite David to introduce himself in just a moment. But I want to share with you guys that I have known David for more than 10 years. Not in any business capacity, but I used to participate in a Toastmasters club. Some of you may be familiar with that. I was not a good public speaker. It took me a while to learn the tricks, and David was actually one of my mentors. I still remember practicing for the area contest, and he gave me some great tips and advice. And so I've known him since then, and I've really come to admire the way he talks about life and things. He is a very accomplished professional from an IT and operations management point of view. But today we're going to learn about a little bit about him as a person and as a patient, and in the hope that we can gain some insights from a patient's view. So with that, David, thank you for joining me today, and please start by introducing yourself to our audience.
Sure. Yes, my name's David Sturgis. I live in Jacksonville, Florida, and I was diagnosed with type 2 diabetes at the age of 49. That was a long time ago because I'm 67 now, so approximately 18 years. And so it's been an interesting ride to get through that, and it's one of the things that's helped me quite a bit is continuous glucose monitoring. So I'll talk about that. But I will say that when I was first diagnosed, I was stunned, basically. I had been diagnosed pre-diabetic, and then when diabetic, I did all I could think of to do, which wasn't much because there really wasn't much good material available, at least not that I could find. I hold myself accountable for that because I was a tech guy, and I could look up how to configure Cisco routers, and so I should be able to read about diabetes. But at any rate, this is my story talking about continuous glucose monitoring products. Naveen, shall I just launch into it, Naveen? Or
yeah, no. First, David,
Sure.
First of all, what I would say to you and everybody else is that diabetes is a very difficult medical condition. It's a tough problem to solve because it requires so many things. And you mentioned continuous glucose monitor. So before we jump into that, way back then, what were you doing? How were you managing your diabetes without these CGMs around?
Oh, finger stick, of course.
Uh-huh.
And the recommendation was when you wake up, and then 2 hours after each meal, and then again, that's 4 times a day. And I'm not sure if that was based on insurance is covering the high cost of finger stick materials, test strips and whatnot. But that was the drill. And so being a tech guy and being I also worked as a mechanic for 5 years. I actually went through a whole VOTech program before I went back to college.
Okay.
And so I learned to diagnose problems. You diagnose a problem in an engine or an electrical system or handling or whatnot. And so I began trying to figure out why my numbers weren't as good as they could be. And so I began testing myself more often. Mm-hmm. And that was fine. Mm-hmm. I could get more test strips, but I would eat, and then I would record what I ate, and then I would see, hey, what's happening 2 hours later. and 2 hours later, my blood sugar went up 50 points.
Wow.
Make a note on that. Let's not have that too often.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's what makes life very difficult, because that finger stick is painful and you're having to do it multiple times. You don't have continuous data. So how did you become aware of the CGMs and what impact it had in your sort of daily life?
Well, I saw them advertised on television, and so I went and contacted my insurance company. Now, much of the last 7 or 8 years of my career, I worked as a contractor, so I had no benefits through my employer, but I was on my wife's employer's plan, and it was pretty much a Cadillac plan, so they would pay for everything, which was great. And so I began using the Freestyle Libre product. That was I think the first generation of it, and it worked well. When you use those type of products, unfortunately, it's an inexact science to use them. Mm-hmm. And the best recommendations, the Freestyle says you have to use it on the back of your arm, mm-hmm. Between the elbow and the shoulder, kind of more toward the middle. And so they want you to do that. And that's fine. And sometimes, even despite using my best skills to apply it through the process they document, it wouldn't work. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, oh my God! And so I'm going to be out for 2 weeks with no coverage now. And so I would call them up, and they would send me another one. Mm-hmm. They would send me another one, that kind of thing. And they were good about that. Freestyle was very good about that. They never really gave me a hard time about that. Mm-hmm. And that sort of thing happens.
Yeah.
So, but I began doing that check, when I eat something, and then I'd look, 30 minutes later, because I just swiped my phone there. I was using my phone at the time, uh-huh. And I could swipe it, say, hey, get the feedback. Maybe 30 minutes, hour and a half, 2 hours. I could see how it was affecting my system, and it allowed me to fine tune what I ate much better, and allowed me to bring my A1C down under 7.
And no finger sticks, of course.
They always have if I found one that seemed egregiously high or low, uh-huh. typically type 2 doesn't go low,
yeah,
but high. And so what I would do is I would say, oh, well, that's maybe that's a bogus number. And sometimes it was, and sometimes it wasn't. Mm-hmm. And so if it wasn't, I'd go out and walk the half mile around the block in my neighborhood once, mm-hmm. or twice, and mm-hmm. come back. It was all taken care of.
So what I'm hearing you say is that if you didn't really trust that number, you would do a finger stick test to confirm. Is that what I'm hearing you say?
Well, yes, exactly. And in my case, I don't have any further treatment to do it. If my blood sugar is high, well, it's high. Yeah. And so, but sometimes, due to whatever condition, it would read normal on the finger stick. So I would. There's a place in the app where you can make a note saying, hey, my meter's reading 120 and this is reading 180. Mm-hmm. So, but I developed a lot of confidence in the Freestyle, frankly.
Got you over time. That's awesome. Did you ever find yourself in a situation where you had some symptoms and you had to talk to a doctor and reach out to them, or you managed it well?
I've managed it well. It has. I've gone through several changes in life. I had a son-in-law and daughter, and 2 young boys move in with us for about 13 months, maybe 11 months, while he phased out of the Army and into civilian work. Mm-hmm. And so, no matter how well you plan for that, it's still a trying event.
Sure.
And as a result, having small children, well, I'm working from home, my son-in-law is working from home. And as a result, you can just imagine 2 little guys running around, hollering and screaming and whatnot. And they're kids. They're just being kids. It's not critical, but at the same time, it's one of those deals, and it does make your blood sugar go up.
Yes. Oh, I love this, David. And guys, as you can see, our forum is a lot about getting to know each other too. We do a lot of technical work, but at the end of the day, we are all individuals and family people, and we have things happening in our lives. So I hope you will actually enjoy this type of conversation, but I would love to hear from you when I open up for discussion. David, I had a question for you. Now, you're a very technical person, right? So when things go wrong or things don't work the way you anticipate, you actually think about them and you take action. So tell me a little bit more about, I think you were saying now you're on Freestyle Libre 2, right? This is a newer version.
Right. The 2 is I think I don't know the 3, but the 2 basically allows alarming.
I see.
Which is which is great. And type 1 diabetics use this as well. And so if they're going low, which is a very dangerous condition, of course, could result in a coma and even death. So the alarming is good. In my case, it alarms high.
I see.
And sometimes it's, most of the time it's accurate when it does that. And I get up and deal with that, do something to take care of that.
Yeah.
But it's useful. But the funny thing is, I was using this on my iPhone, and when the alarm would go off, for some reason, I could have it laying right next to me on the bedstand, and I could sleep through it. My wife's waking, hey,
wake up.
You're all high.
Yeah, you're high. Wake up. But it really helps you to take quick action, right? That's a good benefit. Now,
yeah, that's exactly it. Because quick action it reduces the risk of damage.
Yeah, but you can see how complicated this system itself is, and I know you appreciate that as a technical person. There's hardware, there's software, there is kind of Wi-Fi connectivity, and there is some action. So did you ever wonder like how it is working? And did you even try to kind of figure out some technical side of it? I'm just curious as a patient.
I did not, because it's different. It's different than what you get with fingerstick. My wife and I really enjoy kind of a sports fitness type drink. It's called Zip Fizz.
Okay.
And Costco sells it, powder form. I'm not making a plug for it here, but the point is that it's got 500 milligrams of vitamin C in it. And if I drink something with 500 milligrams of vitamin C in it, it pretty much blows off my measurements for the day with the Freestyle. And I think that this is common among all of the CGM products. It's not specific to Freestyle.
Yeah. And guys, I will also add that I know we are all quality regulatory people, right? I will add for everybody's information that this is just a casual conversation. Nothing we are talking about should be considered as a complaint or any kind of a problem. We're just having a conversation. Okay, so please don't worry about from a quality regulatory perspective. I know what you're thinking. So David, one last question before I invite the audience is, in our business, it's unfortunately, we have recalls, we have safety issues. And as a patient, as a customer, do you keep an eye on them? How do you hear about them? Have you had any experience in this area with your CGM?
No, not really. I've had some that were like DOA. What I apply them. You have to go through a multi-step process, and it has a spring-loaded plunger, and it sticks a straight piece of wire about a 1/4 inch long through your skin. And the way that it makes so much noise, and the whole part of it where it goes on your skin is so big that the whole thing kind of hides that pain from the stick. So that's not been a problem. But no, there have been some, not so much recalls, but there have been issues with software on cell phones, like in particular iOS. There have been issues because Apple doesn't give out what they're changing until they release the new versions. So they ask us to set our phones to not automatically update, and then the situation is they don't tell us when we can update.
David, I remember now. I think this was our initial conversation when you told me about this. I said, we need to talk about this in our Let's Talk Risk forum, because our engineers and quality people would be interested in learning about this. Since the app is running on iPhone and iPhone is running on iOS, in a way, you are kind of dependent on iOS updates, and you want to make sure your app works well, right?
Right. So they're telling us to hold off, for just until a period of time.
Okay. So what happens if you don't if you don't disable the auto update? What happens? Have you, or were you compliant? Did you follow instructions?
I was compliant for the most part. And finally, I got to the point where, like the .0 releases, those are the ones with the biggest concern. And then the rest of the releases, like they come out about every 6 weeks or so, are basically tweaks, fixing a minor problem, something like that. So I let those go through. Well,
so David, I think you are one of the perfect patients for our medical device companies, because you follow instructions, you take precautions, you report back when there's an issue, and this is exactly what we love. So guys, I think at this time, I want to start inviting you to participate in this conversation. We'll continue talking for the remaining 15 minutes or so, but please raise your hand, come on board here and share your perspective. So Mark, you are requesting to join, and Vin, I'm going to bring you on. And guys, you don't have to wait your turn. There is no turn here. So if you want to speak up, just raise your hand. I'll bring as many people as possible. Let's have a good chat. So Mark, you are first. Please share your thoughts. Mark, can you hear me? Okay, looks like Mark is having some difficulty connecting. I'm going to give him a moment. Vin, please unmute your mic and share what you have in mind.
Hi, everyone. Hi, David. How are you?
I'm great. I'm doing really well. Thank you.
Good. Thanks for sharing. Thanks for opening up and, talking to us about this. I don't have a personal experience, but I have, some family members that have dealt with the same issues as you, in particular the iPhone, where they tell you don't update it yet. My question is really just in terms of biocompatibility of the adhesive on your skin. Have you found any rashes or any issues with the prolonged use of of that adhesive in the same spot?
Once in about 5 years, and I think it was because I didn't shave my arm before I did that. Shaving it seems to help out a lot. I'm not a super hairy person, but at the same time, if you get it on a smooth area, that helps. You're also supposed to alternate it left to right. And the problem I have is that I've been on a keto diet now for about 6 years, and I have lost a lot of body fat. And on my left arm, it's basically muscle and bone and skin. And so there's not really any fat for that quarter inch of needle to kind of go into. so I just use it on the right and go up and down my arm.
Interesting.
That was a great question, Vin. Thanks for sharing that.
You.
But please hang in there, okay? We're going to have a good chat about this. Mark, you are next. I hope you can share your thoughts now. Mark, if you can hear me, just unmute your mic. You'll need to unmute using an icon here at the bottom right of your screen. And let's see if we can get you to share what you have in mind. But looks like you're still having some difficulties. So guys, hang in there. I know there are a lot of you in the audience. If you would like to come and participate in this discussion, please join us. This is just a very casual chat, and here's a chance to actually learn a little bit more from a patient.
Naveen, one thing I might mention here too is that, since I was on my wife's insurance plan, I was sort of at the whims of the insurance company. Mm-hmm. And so the insurance company, after the first year of using the Freestyle, they said, whoa, big change. We're all going to the Dexcom.
Oh,
G6.
So did you have to switch?
I did. Well, or else pay for it myself. And so I did that. I went with the Dexcom, and I found it to be an excellent product also. Mm-hmm. Very similar in every way. It seemed like it was a little bit, I wouldn't say it's more mature, but it had a more impressive presentation to it. But it worked about the same. But I had to put that on the left side or the right side of my belly, pretty much horizontal from my belly button.
Not on the arm. So it was different?
Yeah. And I have a fairly hairy chest, so I'd have to shave off a patch there, and then it would look funny on the other side when I took it off.
So what happens if you are used to using the Freestyle on the arm, and did you ever, I know you are really not a typical patient because you're so smart and so compliant, but can you imagine a scenario where someone would actually make a mistake? They're used to putting it on the arm, and they would actually put the new CGM on the arm.
Possibly so. And it doesn't work if you do that. It doesn't work properly.
Gotcha.
It's interesting that, like I say, I'm not super skinny, but at the same time, I'm not much. But I liked the Garmin, or I'm sorry, I liked the Dexcom product. I like Garmin products too, by the way. But anyway, I like fitness tracker stuff.
You are a runner like me, right? So you probably
bicyclist.
Okay.
The knees, but so with that, the Dexcom was a great product also. And then the company said, hey, congratulations, we're not going to pay for any of it.
Oh, so now are you back to Freestyle then, or what?
Well, that was, I'm on Medicare now, and Medicare covers it as a DME under Part B. So I don't have to pay anything for it. But so I had about 3 years on my wife's insurance plan where there was no coverage, and it was about $400 for 90 days. And so I thought that was pretty egregious. Mm-hmm. So I called up and I talked to Freestyle about it, and they said, well, if you don't have insurance coverage and you're not on Medicare, they said, here's the deal. It shouldn't cost more than, say, I think it was $135 or $175 for 90 days. So they said, we will send a voucher for you to CVS, and then when they dispense it for you, they're only going to charge that much.
Awesome.
And so I got it at a fairly good price. And then when I went into Medicare, I was trying to get all that approved through my plan, and that took a little while. And when they finally did, because I had called up and I said, hey, can I just buy like the first quarter of this year using the last thing? And they said, no, because you're on Medicare, then we're not allowed to do any of that stuff. So.
Well, this is a real life struggle you are describing, right? But guys, what I'm also hearing here is an opportunity from a business point of view. We should be talking internally to our business partners. Hey, there might be opportunities to actually gain some more business among patients like David who have to go through this kind of a hassle with insurance.
The other part of it too is to encourage, assuming you're in a healthcare capacity or you have people, you want to be able to encourage them to take advantage of these tools, because it typically, like you see the ads for Januvia and those other things, using this will reduce your A1C if they pay any attention to it at all.
Got it. So Mark, I know you're having technical problem and you have sent me actually your question by DM. And your question is, do you feel like real-time measurement of glucose provided any positive reinforcement for your healthier behaviors like diet, exercise, stress reduction? Like, was there a positive feedback loop for you, David? Can you share something?
There definitely was, Mark. There definitely was, because it's, being retired now, or I'm possibly back in the job market. We'll see. But at any rate, yeah, when you go out to eat, for example, I'm the guy that eats salads, with ranch dressing on them, because with the keto, fat's good for me. Crummy fat's not good for me, but healthy fat, typically olive oil, things like that, really good for me. Avocado oil, and most salad dressings are like that. But so I eat healthier in that sense. I don't eat fried stuff. I love eating meat. I eat meat and fresh vegetables mainly, and eggs and things like that. And my cholesterol's fine too. But what happens is that it's nice that I'm sitting there and everybody's working on their second helping of cake, and I'm just kind of sitting there, and I'll just kind of swipe my sensor once and it says, you're at like 120. It's like, awesome. For me, 100 to about 140 is great.
So, and I think, Mark, I know where you're going with this question, so I'm going to take a guess. It is possible now to start thinking about, as practitioners, maybe quality of life benefits in addition to the direct medical benefit we are providing. David, can you say, so Mark, you're saying thumbs up. Okay, I kind of read your mind a little bit. This is what happens, guys, when we get to know each other a little bit better. I've talked to Mark several times, exchanged many notes, and that's what we are trying to achieve here, build deeper relationships. So David, let me come back to that. Have you seen any quality of life benefits overall through your behavior modification, which is like an indirect effect?
I definitely have. And you're right. It is a behavior modification. And when I was first diagnosed, as a Christian, I was thinking, well, should I pray for God to heal me, or be disappointed that he hasn't yet? But the lesson is the first thing to ask for is wisdom. And I did, and I received a lot of wisdom, I feel, from that, in how to manage my life, how to have the willpower to make the changes. And I made most of these before I was using the CGM, but once I got the CGM, it was just great because I could share it with my wife and she would understand what I'm doing and why I'm doing it. And she's on board completely. She's eating healthier too. But it has been a big help for me. My A1C got up to about 7.2 when my kids were living with me, and in the early parts of my retirement, also it went up. Although probably due to the lack of stress, it might have been a whiplash effect or something.
Yeah.
But basically, no, it definitely has helped with positive reinforcement. And I on the downside of this story too. As I mentioned, my age and whatnot, we have a Zoom call once a month with my high school classmates, those of us that are still alive. I went to Largo High School. And so what's happened is that, Largo, Florida. So what's happened is that, we lost one to diabetes complications. We lost another to diabetes complications. Another guy had his leg amputated and he's bedridden. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm sure there's a bigger story behind that and that I don't need to know. And I'm just thinking, I could be in that situation if I wasn't, taking proactive action to avoid that kind of a situation.
Thank you for sharing that, David. I know it must have been pretty hard for you to listen to these stories.
Well, diabetes is a terrible way to die, and I was trying to find out the right words to put it in, and so I've seen Dr. Alan Cleland in Jacksonville here at Baptist Endocrinology, and right now I'm seeing his chief PA, and she's awesome, completely awesome. She's more conversant than him. He's really quiet, and as you can tell, I like to talk. And so people will tell me, "Well, I'm not giving up cake. I'm not giving up that. I'm not going to give that up." And I'm like, well, that's a choice, but
yeah,
I don't try and dissuade them because it means they don't understand the whole problem. But at the same time, though, it's a terrible way to die. And people say, well, I'll wait till I feel like something's going bad. And as my PA said, she said, when people tell you that, though, once it starts to go bad, the damage is already done and you can't reverse it.
Well, David, it has just been a fascinating conversation. I want to thank you for opening up and sharing your personal story, guys. Last call. If you have any questions, comments, or anything to share, please raise your hand. I'll bring you up. David,
any kind of question at all, please.
Yeah. So, David, I'm going to give you a couple of moments to think about a few things that you can share with our audience, which happens to be mostly quality regulatory people, medical device engineers, doctors, and actually I see a couple of people who are not in the medical device industry, which are interested in just safety and risk management. I would love for you to give them some kind of a closing message, coming from your heart. And I know, table topics. I know you are very good at table topics. So consider that as a table topic sort of problem statement. So I'll give you 2 minutes. I'll give you 2 minutes to talk about that. But guys, I just want to share with you a couple of things about this platform and what is going on. Now, this week, I was unfortunately a target of a misinformation sort of campaign on another social media. I was made aware of that by a colleague on LinkedIn, but I don't want to go too much into that. What I want you to know is that your safety and privacy is of absolute importance to me, and I take it very seriously. So I've taken a lot of action. I want people to feel safe in this forum. You know that we record these sessions, but we record that for the purpose of sharing information. And when I post that on my website, there's a very clear disclaimer that all of us are sharing our views in our personal capacity and not representing our organization. So I want you to feel very safe and protected about that. Whenever you speak up, we don't identify you by your name or your organizational affiliation. But even with that, if you feel uncomfortable, I would love for you to stay engaged. You can share your comments and questions privately with me. But please know that I have my utmost sort of focus on your privacy and integrity. Unfortunately, we are living in a very difficult world where a lot of things can happen to a lot of good people. But I would love for you to stay engaged in this community, feel safe, and support each other, because that's another way we can counter misinformation. I also want you to know that you can catch the past recordings of our conversations. I hope you find value in them on my Let's Talk Risk website. There's a link to that website in this event page. But I would really love for you to stay engaged. And if you have any concerns or any problems, I'm very transparent with you, sharing my own experiences and inviting my guests who are also very transparent and honest with us. So we are trying to build a community that we can support each other. I hope you will continue to stay engaged and not let this be an issue for you. With that, David, I want to invite you to share your closing thoughts with us. Thank you again.
Yeah, diabetes is a terrible way to die, and it's debilitating. You probably all know somebody who has gone through that, or a friend of a friend, or an acquaintance, or someone that you heard about, and it's like, oh gosh, I never knew. And I would just encourage you to encourage people with diabetes or those that are facing it to take it seriously. And they have to have a mindset that, hey, I'm in it to win it. I'm not going to let this thing take me down. You can have a normal, happy life without and it involves sacrifice of some kinds and changing. But at the same time, better to live longer and be healthy. I have young grandchildren now, and it's the greatest thing. I'm so greatly blessed, and I would encourage you to give that message to others too. Work at it, encourage them. And that's the end for me. Thank you so much for listening.
David, thank you so much for sharing your personal story and opening up with us. I can't tell you how wonderful I feel because, we get lost into technical details all the time. And sometimes we forget there's a human side to this story. And that's what makes it all worthwhile. We work very hard to make these products, get them into the market and keep them safe. But when we hear from people like you whose lives have been transformed in many ways, and they are inspired to transform other people's lives, I think in return, we also feel very motivated. So I really appreciate your time and coming here to inspire us. Guys, as you can see, this forum is more than just talking about technical topics on risk. This forum is all about us as individuals, as people, as human beings. So I invite you to join me in conversations, sharing your story, sharing your insights. Please don't hold back because the world needs your wisdom and insights and inspiration. With that, I'm going to let all of you guys go. David, thanks once again. Thanks for all of you for joining. And I look forward to seeing you next week.
Thank you, Naveen.
Bye-bye.